There's one thing that could hold Matthew Tkachuk from coming back for the 2026 Winter Classic. What is it? We'll discuss that next here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast.
Your Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into this Tuesday, December 23rd edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the nation's #1 sports podcasting network, and we are your team every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. I'm Armando Velez, the host of the show, and you can follow me on X at Monoman12. Follow the show anywhere you listen to podcasts and on YouTube. Shout out to the everydayers who come back here and get your daily Florida Panthers fix. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your live NFL bets all season long. You can do that all on FanDuel. So, Florida Panther fans, grateful to be back here once again on another edition of the show to discuss everything in the world of the Florida Panthers. And one last game for the Florida Panthers to play right before we go into the holiday break. We are already in the roster freeze that happened on Saturday at midnight and will last all the way until the holiday break is over on the 27th for the NHL. But today we are going to discuss one major hurdle for Matthew Tkachuk in his return to the Florida Panthers, or his attempted return. We are also going to discuss a college football legend who is getting involved in ownership across the NHL and also gave an example with the Florida Panthers. And then we are going to preview tonight's game between the Florida Panthers and the Carolina Hurricanes from PNC Arena in Raleigh, North Carolina. But there's a little bit of, there's a lot of excitement for what is going on with the Florida Panthers coming off of 2 Stanley Cup championships. We have the Winter Classic coming up for the Panthers, which I just received my sweater, by the way, for the Winter Classic. So I'm very excited to have that as part of the jersey collection. And, the Panthers have been hot as of recently with their 5-game winning streak coming to an end just in their last game against the St. Louis Blues on Saturday. And the Panthers are right back at it again with a really tough schedule. And also they're going to be home for a while after tonight. And, that includes the Winter Classic, a big celebration of the game of hockey. And NHL PR just actually announced what they're going to do for the parking and transportation, which you could pay $46 for parking at the venue at Lone Depot Park, or you could take some shuttle services at the Brightline station or at the Metro Rail station at Government Center. So those are some of the options there, but it's going to be a big celebration, as right now we are seeing slowly but surely there's going to be they are constructing the rink, which if you're on the YouTube, we are currently playing the video of the time lapse of the current construction of what it looks like. And it is going to be on loop, so you guys can see it over and over again for you guys watching this show. But Matthew Tkachuk, with his attempted return to the Florida Panthers and the lineup after going out with the torn adductor and the sports hernia that he suffered in the Four Nations, and then trying to do so in the Stanley Cup playoffs, which he started off with a bang against the Tampa Bay Lightning with 2 power play goals, and doing so in 12 minutes to start the playoffs, and then getting that elevated ice time, and then the GWG in Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Final for the Panthers to get their second consecutive cup. But there's one major hurdle that is in the way of him attempting to come back, and that is the fact that the Panthers don't have a lot of practice time from now until the Winter Classic, which I went back and double checked for the last time the Panthers did have an actual practice, and their last practice was actually the day before their game against Utah. So it's been 2 weeks since they have had an official practice. So yeah, there's nothing like game reps when it comes to getting on the ice, but the lack of there's not a lot of gaps in between games between now until the Winter Classic, and there wasn't even that any or much then prior to this. So you think about what's been going on recently between Colorado game and Dallas, one day off. That's the travel day. The Dallas to Tampa, that's also a travel day. And then when they returned at home against the LA Kings, they had they had the one day off in between the back to back. And are you really gonna have the Panthers get on the ice multiple times on that back to back? So that's a little bit of difficulty to navigate for the Florida Panthers when you want to be on the ice, but at the same time when there's an actual game day and there's like a morning skate as well, to take line rushes away from guys who are going to be in the lineup for that day. And yeah, Matthew Tkachuk has been working separately with trainers for the Panthers, but this lack of time is going to be a little difficult. And also, yeah, you see 3 days off in between the game against Carolina tonight and the game against the Tampa Bay Lightning on Saturday night, but the NHL and the NHL and the NHLPA have agreed to give the players those 3 days off for the holidays, so guys can go to different locations outside of South Florida in the case of the Panthers to be with different family members as well. So you cannot, by the CBA, get together in a practice setting through that. So teams will get fined if they have any secret practices or secret travel, by mind you, throughout that time. Would be let's rewind a little bit from a few years ago. The Toronto Maple Leafs tried leaving the night before one of their games in St. Louis, which that's a little bit of a tough schedule the day after the holiday break, and they wanted to get a little bit ahead, and even then they got fined. I believe the Dallas Stars did have a secret practice as well when during the holiday break as well to get ready for one of their games as well. So again, you will if the NHL does find out and you get caught, you will get fined. Is that something worth that the Panthers are willing to risk throughout the holiday break to get Matthew Tkachuk in a little bit of a team setting? That's up to them. But you look at the situation with this being new ice for Lone Depot Park for this scheduled event with and once again a celebration of the game, which we're 10 days away, and also episode 3 of the Road to the Winter Classic, by the way, is tonight, later today, excuse me, at 3 p.m. We'll have late afternoon hockey, by the way, on TNT when the Maple Leafs take on the Penguins, so that's why it's on so early on a day like today on December 23rd. So make sure if you are happen to be home to tune into TNT, or if you want to watch it on HBO Max the next day, you can do so. But do you really want to risk putting Matthew Tkachuk in his first game back being on that ice? The good thing is for the Panthers there are those 2 days off between the game against the Habs and the Winter Classic on the Friday against the New York Rangers. So maybe that's the time for Matthew Tkachuk to test out the legs on that ice and get in that practice setting. So maybe that will be the first practice for Tkachuk, because the Panthers are likely going to be off after the Tampa Bay game, and then they'll play those games on Monday and Tuesday, which on the Tuesday game against Montreal, they will honor Brad Marchand for getting his 1,000th point that he did against the Washington Capitals just a few weeks ago. So they're honoring him for the game against the Montreal Canadiens. So maybe that's when we'll see an official first practice for Matthew Tkachuk. And the coaching staff and Paul Maurice has said this so many times that he is not going to allow a player to just come back without having a practice with the group. And that matters. And that is also doing right by the player and doing right by the team. So it's a hurdle, but it's not necessarily impossible to navigate. So we see these promotions for the Winter Classic. We've seen the Sherwood hockey promoting a composite stick, with the Miami Vice colors, which is a thing of beauty for the event. So we will see what they will do there as far as get this. But if we see on New Year's Eve that Matthew Tkachuk is stepping on the ice, we could see it as the anticipated return for him to be in the Florida Panthers lineup, because once again, this is one thing that players discuss about playing and the memories that they've made. Brad Marchand has been in an outdoor game. Jeff Petrie has been in multiple during his long career. So these are the ones that guys get excited for, and then an opportunity for a unique game worn type of sweater as well to keep and put up on display, which we've seen Matthew Tkachuk. If you watch his show on YouTube, he has those sweaters on display in the background for him of Four Nations and different types of sweaters that he's worn over his. It's been a short career for him. He hasn't even been in the league for a decade, but he still has a good amount of a collection for him as far as what we've seen in the background. But we're going to transition over to segment number 2, where we are going to discuss a legend in sports that is joining ownership in the NHL. Who is that? We are going to discuss that next here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch. And the holidays are amazing, but they can also get overwhelming fast. Travel, gifts, parties, year-end expenses. It's really easy to lose track of your money this time of year. That's exactly why Monarch has become such a game changer for me. So if you want to keep your finances under control this holiday season, you need to be using Monarch. Rated Wall Street Journal's best budgeting app of 2025, Monarch is the all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, simple dashboard. Holiday spending categories can become a lifesaver. You can see exactly what's left in your gift and travel budget in real time. In minutes, you can check your net worth, link all your accounts, and keep track of contributions before deadline. Monarch makes money check-ins simple, just a minute or two each week, and you're completely up to speed. And it's great for couples, shared dashboard, shared goals. If you're, wait, how much did we spend? Conversations. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDON at monarch.com. In your browser for half off of your first year. That's 50% off of your first year at monarch.com with code LOCKEDON NHL. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. And thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. If you haven't already, go check out our new Everydayer Club. You get access to an audio feed for Locked On Florida Panthers compatible with Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and every other major podcast app. And you also get an exclusive members only Discord server, which includes a group chat for listeners just like you to also chat with me. You could also check in the link below in the show notes to learn more. So, this is pretty awesome from what I heard the other day about a college football legend in Nick Saban, who's won multiple national championships with the University of Alabama and also won previously with LSU right before taking the job to become the coach of the Miami Dolphins, which she was there for 2 years in 2006 and 2005 and 2006 for his time there. But he's also getting in. And you can tell that he's just done with working in college football, the coaching, the grind that it takes to go into players' houses and recruiting and the state of NIL. So this is a little bit of a new venture for the greatest coach of all time. And yeah, it's a little bit of a sore spot when it comes to hearing the name Nick Saban, because he swore that he wasn't going to be leaving the Miami Dolphins for the University of Alabama. But it's been 20 years. I would have left too, with how much of a mess that organization has been over the last 25 years. But for Nick Saban, he spent a little bit of time here, and he also mentioned about owning a home here and discuss a little bit about how much hockey has grown since. And he also discussed that in his introductory press conference, which the Nashville media there wanted to hear from Nick Saban so badly. So Nashville Predators PR gave him the microphone and an opportunity to speak to the media. So here's one of the questions that he was asked for by our friend of the show, Caitlin Daly, who used to work for the 5 Reasons Sports Network covering the Panthers, but now covers the Predators. Here's what she had to ask Nick Saban about this new venture for being a minority owner with the Predators.
Nick, what excites you most about being a part of this franchise and in this city at this stage?
It's exciting as hell to be a part of this organization. A couple games that we've been to in the past, the fans, the enthusiasm, the passion, and the organization were tremendous. The brand is really outstanding. I think hockey is one of the sort of fastest growing sports. I have a house in South Florida, and people talk about hockey more than they talk about the Miami Dolphins, who I used to be the coach of, which kind of pisses me off, but it is what it is. So the Panthers are successful, and I think when you have a successful organization, a lot of people will relate to that, and that's certainly the goal here.
Yeah, and let's kind of rewind a little bit of when he was the coach of the Miami Dolphins, when the Panthers were the NHL was going through their lockout in 04-05, so there wasn't even a season for the NHL. The season was lost due to that, and so he didn't even get a chance to really see the Florida Panthers in action for one season, which in that year, the Miami Dolphins were able to come back and win 6 straight to just miss the playoffs. Kind of sounds familiar from what they did this season, by the way, a 4-game winning streak, but it still wasn't enough to make the playoffs for them. And then the very next season for the Florida Panthers, they get 85 points, 37 wins. So in that year, Olli Jokinen is the leading scorer for the Florida Panthers, and the second leading scorer for the Panthers was a 39-year-old Joe Nieuwendyk, Hall of Famer Joe Nieuwendyk. But so the Nathan Hortons, the Jay Bouwmeesters hadn't exploded yet. They were still in their early 20s, but they hadn't really taken over for the Panthers really until the latter part of the 2010s, when they were part of the core. And the Panthers really were also in that transition of trading Roberto Luongo away to the Vancouver Canucks in the last season that he had, that he played for the Panthers before he came back in 2013. He played 75 games for an under at a 914 save percentage, and then the very next year was the Ed Belfour year, which was the year that was that Nick Saban left, and then the Dolphins ended up being 1-15 then. So a little bit of perspective on who the Panthers were then versus what they are now, and then the conversation about a winner and how much South Florida truly loves a winner. And yeah, we've discussed so many things to do in the region that if you're not providing a winning product, that people are just not going to show up. And it took a while. It it took a while for the Panthers to get to that point, which right now second in the NHL in attendance, right behind the Montreal Canadiens, which is an impressive feat that they have continued to do so this season. Last season, they were around 9 to 11th in average attendance for their games, and the Panthers have just improved so much, and they're getting a season ticket wait list. So that's a lot of praise that the greatest coach of all time is providing, as far as greatest coach as far as college football is providing there, and just wanting to be involved in the sport. And then you have seen so many different celebrities involved in ownership as well. Michael Bublé, he is the owner of the Vancouver Giants in the WHL. LeBron James, he had an ownership stake in the Pittsburgh Penguins, because the Pittsburgh Penguins are in the process of getting sold to the Hoffman family, who is Chicago-based, but they also are involved with the Florida Everblades of the ECHL, which right now the ECHL is on a little bit of a strike. So their season is kind of in jeopardy as of right now, but LeBron James was involved. There was one time where he was walking into the arena with a Pittsburgh Penguins sweater. So Wayne Gretzky, when he was the coach of the Arizona Coyotes, he was also part owner and coach there as well. So, and other guys have also tried to be involved in ownership. Ryan Reynolds tried to put in a bid for the Ottawa Senators, as did Snoop Dogg as well. Justin Bieber has had his collaboration with the Toronto Maple Leafs as someone who's from Toronto. Adam Sandler and Steve Carell have had interest in the Boston Bruins there. Jimmy Fallon is seen in Ranger games often. Will Ferrell at LA Kings games. So there's a lot of interest in a really fast growing sport. And also, you just look at the exposure on TV, even recently, and even streaming for an opportunity that has been provided for fans of the NHL, which now in this year with the NBA going away from TNT and bringing their games back to NBC and then adding Amazon Prime to the mix. TNT has the Tuesday, Wednesday slots now, and they are filling in more opportunities for NHL fans to see their games. ESPN Plus is also gives you that opportunity to see any out of market game that's not in your area as well. So there has been more access than there has ever been for the NHL, and also the fact that uh, they're still going. MLB has also renewed a contract with ESPN, so uh, I don't know how that's going to work when the NHL schedule does move up a week and it's during the wild card round of Major League Baseball. So that is still TBD for what opening night is going to look like. Maybe they'll put opening night on TNT instead of ESPN. So it's something to look out for. But the access and the interest is higher than it's ever been. And you know what? We can criticize Gary Bettman all we want, and it's mostly the fans up north because his goal is to grow the sport in the United States, and he's done so successfully with how many teams there were in 1993 to how many there have been. There wasn't a Nashville Predators in 1993. There wasn't a Columbus Blue Jackets. The Florida Panthers were just coming into the league the year before the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Ottawa Senators were just becoming teams right before Gary Bettman got here. And then you see how much of a success Vegas has been in Seattle. And then they're still trying to expand into places like Houston, trying to go back to Arizona, Atlanta, and maybe, just maybe, Quebec City is one that could have a team again. That's the one Canadian team Canadian market, excuse me, that has been begging for them to go back. But if you were to expand it by 4 and make it to 36, which would even things up, you can get three more US markets and 1 more Canadian market, which again, does it water down the product as far as the talent? Absolutely. There's no question about that. But to tap into places where fans have the interest, that's the goal ultimately about growing the game. And there's also markets who have so much interest in the sport, even when their team is not doing well, which the Buffalo Sabres haven't made the playoffs in 14 years. And they're still in the top 5 of markets when it comes to watching the Stanley Cup playoffs. So there's just so many great markets there. Obviously there's some better when they even that are up there, even win or lose. But when you get a product that is sustainable, and the Nashville Predators, in the case of Nick Saban owning the team, they had their time of long playoff runs and making it all the way to the Stanley Cup final, which is a place that they're trying to get to again, which right now they're kind of far away, but the brand still sells and people have a good time at games. And that's a great place to go watch a game. But we're going to transition over to segment number 3, where we are going to preview tonight's game between the Florida Panthers and the Carolina Hurricanes. And what should the Panthers expect as these two teams are facing up against each other in just days apart from their previous matchup? We'll discuss that next here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. And NFL Sundays move fast. One big play and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift. A receiver gets hot, defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump into the moment. Live spreads and money lines adjust instantly. Player props update as guys heat up. You can bet next touchdown scores, drive results, totals, and more. Keeps you locked into every snap, every drive, every possibility. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your live NFL bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. Third and final segment here on this Tuesday, December 23rd edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. So the Florida Panthers take on the Carolina Hurricanes tonight from PNC Arena in Raleigh, North Carolina. Their one road game as far as their stretch of 9 games, which the Panthers began with 8 of 9 at home right before it gets really road heavy for them. And I am expecting on the other side for the Carolina Hurricanes a really angry team for Carolina because of what occurred in the previous game with the rush that Seth Jarvis had coming up the left wing, and then Evan Rodriguez missing the puck and getting his legs and unfortunately really fast into the net and colliding with his ribs on the cage on the rib cage on the net. But just for this game for the Florida Panthers there, it's also Jaccob Slavin. It won't play in this one, which you think about this for USA and Canada for Seth Jarvis and his chances of making the team, who was already on the bubble, and then Jaccob Slavin, the stay-at-home defenseman, who was one of the Team USA's best players in the whole tournament. They're week to week with an upper body injury, both of them, and I expect a really mad team because this team, the Florida Panthers, love to play on an edge, and that's what happens when you have a championship level team. I mean, right before the right as the Tampa Bay Lightning were in the middle of their run of making 3 consecutive finals, they were that one team playing on the edge, and everybody was claiming them as the dirty team. Let's not forget Brandon Hagel's 5-minute major on Etu in the second round back in 2022. And Tampa Bay Lightning fans like to forget when it comes to what happened as far as Seth Jones' recent forearm to the chin of Brandon Hagel. But yeah, I expect a really angry Carolina Hurricanes team coming into the mix, and they did do a couple of call-ups prior to this match between the Panthers and the Carolina Hurricanes. So the top pair is expected to be Keandre Miller and Sean Walker. He's been moved up a spot. Jalen Chatfield and Shane Gostisbehere will be on the second pair. And former Panther Mike Riley is going to be on the third pair with Alexander Nikishin. So Seth Jarvis is obviously not going to be playing. So Jackson Blake will be taking up that top spot in the lineup. So it's a little bit of a mix up in the top 6 for the Carolina Hurricanes. So, but expect something at the beginning of the game where on the opening draw or some of those post whistle scrums for these two teams. So it's going to be a nasty one, and we've seen plenty of times, especially in 2024. Panthers lose 1-0 against the Carolina Hurricanes. It ends their long road winning streak, and then the Panthers sore losers at the end, which I don't say that in a negative sense, but when a team doesn't like to lose, they'll let you know, and that's kind of what you want for a team, because it really helps get them. It's that drive that comes with it when it comes to a team that you won't settle for anything less than winning. So I don't take that in a bad way whenever opposing fans of the Florida Panthers say that the Panthers are sore losers. But hey, that comes. There's also a little bit of disgust from other fan bases when, especially, it's a team that it's like, not again. Do you lose to them, which the Carolina Hurricanes experienced twice in the playoffs in 2023 and 2025, but blowing a 3-0 lead against that team, that is sickening to any fan's stomach. And you know what? If this were the Florida Panthers on the other side, I'd be angry too, and I get it. But this is an opportunity for the Panthers to really go. Let's go into the hockey part of this, where this is an opportunity for them to build up their game on the road, because 7-7-0 on the road, which this latest road trip for the Panthers, getting 6 out of 8 points, really put them back on track to getting a pretty decent road record. And the Panthers are doing this with scoring less goals per game, 0.12 worse on the road than they are at home. Their goals against, they're giving up 0.19 more towards on the road than they are at home. Their their power play percentage, there are 12%. They are 12% on the road while they're at 23% at home. But the one thing that is better though at on the road is their PK percentage, 3.3% better. But they're getting outshot by 6 each game on away from Amerant Bank Arena. So that is and with the Panthers on what they were able to do in their recent home game against Carolina, which even when the Panthers were down 3-0, you consistently saw how the Panthers were able to tilt the ice in their direction. Obviously, you don't have the matchup advantage with not getting the last change, but the fact that the Carolina Hurricanes are thinner than what they were in their game from their game on Saturday. This is an opportunity for the Panthers to provide a great road game and also don't fall behind once again in the first period, because these comebacks have been great, but you just don't want to see it a second time. The LA was cool. The Carolina recent one was cool, and also almost getting there with St. Louis, even though they only played one great period. Please, I just say, please, don't fall behind. And if you see this as 0-0 at the end of one, I will see it as a victory for the Panthers, as we've seen so many times whenever they get to the second period and there's that long change, and the Panthers are getting in on their forecheck, and also there's flips of the puck from the opposition in the neutral zone, and the Panthers are there to quickly shoot the puck back in. You could really tire out those your opponent there. So that's really what I'm looking for. We don't know who the starting goaltender is for the Carolina Hurricanes yet. Don't know whether it's going to be Brandon Bussey or going to be Pyotr Tkachuk. But I'm expecting Sergei Bobrovsky to be between the pipes with this 3-day break that's going to be happening between now and Christmas. So you want to get Sergei Bobrovsky at least back between the pipes for the Panthers. So that's what I'm expecting. We will know in about an hour and a half from the time of this recording whether Mackie Samoskevich is going to be back after missing Saturday's game against the St. Louis Blues. So we'll update you on the YouTube and on our social media pages then. But that's going to do it for today's edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. Make sure to join our Everydayer Club, and you could do so by clicking on the link in the show notes to join our exclusive Discord and our ad-free show here as well. But thank you as always for listening. We will recap this game on tomorrow's edition of the show. But in the meantime, if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to the podcast to be notified every single time the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast jumps into your podcast feed. Don't forget to also subscribe to the other shows on the Locked On NHL network, including Locked On NHL, Locked On Fantasy Hockey, Flip Livingstone, and Steve Roden, and Locked On NHL Prospects. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. So I'm Armando Velez, signing off. And you've been listening to Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of Locked On Podcast Network. We're your team every day.